Well, the first witness in the trial of a Fort Worth police officer accused of murder was a child. Criminal defense attorney Russell Wilson has been following the Aaron Dean trial, and you actually predicted the now 11-year-old would be called to testify. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, let's talk about day one in this case. It included opening statements and the heart-wrenching testimony, really, of the victim's nephew, really the only witness to the shooting other than Aaron Dean. But you and I talked about this yesterday. A key point in this, did she point the gun? 3 years ago, the boy told investigators she did point it. However, yesterday he said she did not.
Yeah, you know, I don't know that the jurors would rely exclusively on his testimony. Certainly, whether or not she pointed a gun, I think, is a factor. But when you look at the defense opening statement, they're describing Mr. Dean as shooting at a silhouette. And when you look at the state's opening statement, they're focusing very heavily on the length of time between the command to get your hands up and the discharge of the weapon. And so I you know, whether or not it was pointed or not may or may not be an issue for them.
Okay, and we kind of mentioned this. The young man was 8 at the time of the shooting. There was also an interesting moment yesterday when the judge ordered a woman to leave the courtroom, suggesting that she was coaching the nephew when he was on the stand. The defense suggesting that he may have been coached from the start. Now, you've been doing this a long time. You've seen a lot of inside baseball in some of these trials.
Right.
Is this just drama, or does this impact the trial?
You know, I think maybe a little bit of both. You never know how the jurors will receive information or events that occur in the courtroom. But ultimately, we have a child who was next to his aunt when she was shot and killed. I don't think it would be surprising that he might not necessarily have the most accurate memory on every detail of what occurred. So, you know, I think that the case continues on, and we have to kind of see what we hear next.
All right, speaking of what we would hear next, any idea on maybe some possible witnesses coming up, how the cases in those...
You know, I would imagine the state may go towards the officer's body camera.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to then see, if you will, the events unfolding from the point of view of the officer. And you'll also be able to determine the length of time between the command and the shot being fired. So that's what I think, if we're out of the state, I would likely do next.
And I know you've seen these types of cases before, and it really kind of hinges on what, not specifically what happened, that's important, the details, but also, as the defense is pointing out, what Officer Dean at the time knew.
Right, certainly what Officer Dean at the time knew. You have the defense using the term a terrible accident, which suggests to us that there's some degree of concession, maybe, regarding whether or not this should in fact be a crime, but maybe just not the crime of murder. So the other day we talked about other potential crimes that Officer Dean could be convicted of, maybe manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide. And that's what the focus now becomes on, what his mental state would have been at the time that the weapon was discharged.
A lot of details in this case. Real quickly, how long do you think this could last?
You know, I'm not sure. I think at least a week. It looks like we'll be getting into some expert testimony regarding timing, certainly some issues regarding training, but I think it would take at least the rest of this week, maybe into early next week.
All right. Criminal defense attorney Russell Wilson, we appreciate your input. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks. Y'all have a great...
You too. All right, 7:27 on this Tuesday morning. Testimony resumes this morning in the murder trial. It resumes at about 9 o'clock. You can follow along through a live stream on the Fox 4 News YouTube channel and also our website, fox4news.com. Our website is where you can follow the live blog of the trial as well.